Hello, my name is Ed Zabrocki, and I'm the mayor of Tinley Park. On August 14th, 2013, I had the opportunity to meet with the Park Avenue merchants, and we talked about Tinley Park as a community, an overview. We talked about its economic development activities that are going on, and we talked about the downtown Tinley initiatives. I'd like to take the next few moments and talk to you a little about each of those and what we talked about that particular day. First of all, let's take Tinley Park as a whole. You've heard us say many times that we have a AA plus credit rating, and we tote that, and we're very proud of that. We're one of only 5% of all government agencies in the United States that fall into that category, and that becomes because of financial management, our planning, and looking ahead to see what kind of things we have to fund and when we have to do it. We also have had a balanced budget each and every year. That makes a difference with the bond rating agencies. And most importantly, through the recession since 2007, 2008, we've maintained a level of services without one layoff. We were named America's Best Place to Raise Children by Bloomberg Businessweek magazine. That's not just the village of Tinley Park, that's the entire community. It's the village, the school districts, the library, the park district, the Kiwanis, the Sertoma, all of the clubs, and you as citizens are part of that award of making our village a great place to raise our kids. We were a national winner for economic development by the United States Department of Commerce a couple of years ago. They were very impressed with our economic development group and how we aggressively go after business, and we'll talk a little bit about that. We were named one of the top 10 suburbs by Chicago Magazine. Remember, there are 273 suburbs of Chicago, and to be in the top 10 is really something to think about. Let's talk about some of the village-wide projects that are going on within our community. Right now, we have 26 active commercial projects in process. Over the last 5 years, during that recession, we've had a net increase of 201 businesses in the last 5 years. And 60 new businesses in the 2012-2013 schedule. Brookside Marketplace, Ross Dresses, Chase Manhattan Bank, Ario's Restaurant, a restaurant on 183rd just off of Harlem Avenue, roughly a $3 million investment. Menards bought the old Southtown Star building and have expanded. It'll be the largest Menards store in their chain. It's under construction at the present time, and we look forward to that. Some citywide projects. We're very, very proud of our 2 train stations. We built those stations with this in mind. A station doesn't last for 5 or 10 years. Those stations were built to last 50, 60, 75 years. They were also built to make a statement to developers. The village of Tinley Park is willing to spend its money to make sure that these buildings are very presentable and something that is very acceptable, and we expect them to do the minimum along with that. So that's why you have 80th Avenue Station built the way it was, and you have the train station on Park Avenue built that way, because that makes a difference. One of the most controversial things that I've had people call me about in the last couple of years was the medians on Harlem Avenue, and they're saying, how can you spend $1.2, $1.3 million, whatever the final total was, on those medians? Well, quite frankly, we didn't spend that. We spent about 20% of that is what our investment was. And quite frankly, folks, if we didn't take the money with our 20% match and 80% from the federal government, some other community would have. So our attitude is, if that money is available and we could leverage it 3, 4, 5 to 1, that makes a difference. We did that very well with 183rd Street and that extension from approximately 80th Avenue all the way out to LaGrange Road. That was a federal project, a state project, and a county project. The cost was approximately $10 million. The village of Tinley Park had less than $1 million into it. Again, we leveraged money. One of the other issues that are in many people's minds right now is the Tinley Park Mental Health Hospital and what's happening. Well, quite frankly, we're not sure ourselves. I can give you an up-to-date of the information that we have as of now. Obviously, all the patients are out of it. The state is going through a process now of assessing the grounds, the property, on what it's worth, what are the opportunities with it. And you look at it and you may say to yourself, well, gee, look, there's 280 acres of prime land. That would be great to have. That's fine, but there are some issues with that land. Let's take it step by step. First of all, 280 acres. All of the buildings have to come down. Why? Asbestos. Asbestos tile in the ceilings, asbestos insulation, lead paint on the walls. The buildings are also centrally heated from one central plant with heat runs that come out like a spokes on a bicycle. And all of those heat runs are tunnels, probably 5 to 6 feet high, and each of those heat runs are wrapped in asbestos. There's also some dump out on that facility. We're not sure what is in that dump. And then you have the powerhouse itself, which is going to have to come down. But probably the overriding issue is this. Those 280 acres are in Cook County. Right across the street, 200 feet south, is Will County. And the difference in commercial real estate taxes are tremendous between Cook County and Will County. If you have a piece of property on those mental health grounds or in Cook County, and that property is paying $100,000 a year in real estate tax, you flip that property 200 feet south to Will County, and those property taxes are now about $48,000. Look at the difference. Look at the difference. That's why that property will never totally be developed as commercially. You're going to have some commercial on a corner, that kind of thing, 15, 20 acres, maybe 30 acres, but certainly not a great deal. We also have to be careful as that develops that we don't hurt the shopping center in 191st and Harlem or the other shopping centers further north. So you have to look at a balance. That property, along with the property on Oak Park Avenue, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, is great for transit-oriented development. And we'll talk more about that as time goes on. The village has worked in partnership with many different communities and also with various different businesses. Many people say, well, you give money away, you give incentives. Well, yeah, but let's talk about what those incentives are and how they work. We don't just hand the check to somebody, okay? We don't just hand the check to somebody. And I think a good example of that I can make you understand is our car dealerships on 159th Street. By the way, we're aggressively going after another one. That is about the second or third largest dealer mart between Orland Park and Tinley Park along 159th Street in the Midwest. Let's take, for example, we just had a dealership that remodeled the place, and we gave him an incentive. And he had to remodel it primarily because the parent company said you had to do it. So that particular dealership was making X amount of dollars, and we were getting X amount of dollars from sales tax. We said, okay, if you rebuild your building, remodel your building, you're going to increase your sales, correct? They said, yes. How much? We worked with their number, not ours, their number. So we will give them a certain percentage back of that increase, not the base. The base stays with us. They get 50% of everything over that up to a certain level, and that varies from business to business depending upon how much they go with, and with a year end date, usually 10 years. Probably the best example of that is the First Midwest Bank Amphitheater out on Harlem Avenue. They came in for an incentive in 1990 and asked for $2 million. And we said, fine, what are your numbers? They gave us the numbers, and we said, okay, we'll work on a 50-50 basis with you. And you either make your numbers in 10 years or you're through. They didn't make it. The best they got was $1.2 million. That was it. They never made their numbers. So that makes a difference. That makes a difference. And the reason why we're so aggressive with car dealerships is that we get in approximately $12 to $13 million a year in sales tax. 40% of that comes from car sales. So very aggressive when we go after that. That makes a difference. We also go after those kinds of things, the big, large businesses out on 183rd Street and Industrial Park, those kinds of places, because those pay the major taxes and helps us stabilize real estate taxes. Now, I know you're going to say, hey, my taxes are going up. You know what? I've had the opportunity to be mayor for 32 years. I've never said we're going to lower your taxes. We're going to work the best we can to minimize the increase in those taxes. And I think we've done that over the years. One of the unique things about Tinley Park is its geography. And 183rd and Harlem is an excellent example of that. We are in 4 townships, 2 counties, 13 school districts, 3 park districts, 2 library districts, 4 state districts, state representative districts, and 3 senatorial districts. We are literally a hodgepodge. 183rd and Harlem is the crossroads. On 3 corners, you have Cook County, Bremen Township, Orland Township, and Rich Township. And on the 4th one, you have Will County and Frankfort Township. From the Bremen Township side, approximately 76% of your real estate taxes go for education. 8% go for county and township. Park District gets 3%. The Tinley Park Library gets 3%. And the Village of Tinley Park gets about 10%. That's the breakdown. Now, each of the different townships are approximately the same. They might go up of 1 or 2% depending upon where you're at. But that's about the breakdown of what you have. Now let's kind of move down and let's talk about downtown Tinley, because that's always a big concern. And it's a big concern for myself and my fellow board members, because we want to make sure that Oak Park Avenue stays a viable street. I've said many times that we have to go out of our way to make sure that the core of our community, the historical part of our community, stays viable. That's very, very important. We're also named one of the top 20 transit cities, the best station, through DePaul University. And again, they were citing our train stations and how friendly they can be. Some of the activities on Oak Park Avenue. We have roughly 46 different events a year. And depends how you count them, we will get anywhere from 75 to 80, 85,000 people who come to that. How is that funded? We fund that through the hotel motel tax. And we spend that money on Oak Park Avenue. We also get money through sponsorships, but we spend over $200,000 a year with the special parades, the Easter events, the holiday market, Boo Bash, Caribbean Block Party, the musics in the plaza, etc., those kinds of things. And yes, we do get about $60,000 in sponsorships, but the bulk of the money comes from the hotel motel tax. The convention center has turned out to be extremely successful for us. When we first built it, we had a lot of concern whether it would fly or not, and that should have been that way. With the addition to the center, we're now able to attract approximately 70 to 75% of the potential conventions that are out there. Several years ago, when we were talking about the possibility of expanding that convention center, we hit a niche, we hit a level that some of the conventions that were coming there were now beginning to look elsewhere because their conventions grew and our convention center did not grow. That made a difference. So that's why we went with the expanded convention center, and that made a difference. It really made a difference. The hotel motel tax, we collect roughly $1.2 million. Now, according to the law, according to state law of Illinois, that money cannot be used for general fund activities, etc. It goes into a special fund. We use it for promotional efforts. That's very important to remember. In 2013 so far, we've had over 150,000 people go through the convention center, doing very well. 15 years ago, the Village of Tinley Park had 0 hotel rooms. Today, we have over 900 rooms in 9 hotels. Now let's talk a little bit about Oak Park Avenue and what was Oak Park Avenue like years ago. What is it like today? My wife and my family, we moved into Tinley Park in 1970. And Harlem Avenue was just beginning to be started. The main section of Harlem Avenue curved over just south of I-80, went through Oak Park Avenue and exited at 159th Street and curved over to the left over by Jack Gibbons Gardens. And if you're just south of Jack Gibbons Gardens on Oak Park Avenue, you can still see where it curved and caught up with the old Harlem Avenue at 143rd. Oak Park Avenue at that time had something called the Ranch Road. We called it the Ranch Road at that time. Some people called it the Frontage Road. It's still there. But at that point in time, it was literally a dirt road. Maybe a little better than a dirt, but certainly a dirt road. So those were some of the first things that we started on with Oak Park Avenue. There was no way we could change the level of Oak Park Avenue. It was on two different levels, and I'm not sure exactly where that took place. So we improved the Ranch Road, the Frontage Road, whatever you want to call it. We repaved Oak Park Avenue. We put in the decorative lighting on Oak Park Avenue. And then we started little bits and pieces. Some of you may remember that we had electrical poles on Oak Park Avenue from 171st to 173rd. The village paid to take those light poles off of Oak Park Avenue to make it more attractive. Those are some of the things we did. 171st Street and Oak Park Avenue. We put in those turn lanes, etc. Approximately $250,000. We did Elmore Plaza, did some work around there, another $100,000. 175th traffic light, we put that in. The light poles, let me go back to that just for a second, were they were really bad looking. And we had a lot of concern from the various different businesses in town who wanted to remove those. And that's why we made that a priority. We did a lot with sewer and drainage along the Ranch Road. We had flooding along there. The old middle school property, we bought that. The village owns that. We bought that for $1 million and spent about another $300,000 taking it down, taking the old building down. That will be developed, and it'll be developed most probably into townhouses, etc., those kinds of things, once the economy picks up a little bit. One of the things I always get people say, my God, Oak Park Avenue is, we got boarded up buildings, everything else. Folks, take an honest look and drive down Oak Park Avenue. Yes, we do have some vacancies. Our vacancy rate in the early part of August was 5.6% on Oak Park Avenue. That's from 159th and Oak Park Avenue to 183rd, 5.6%. Other towns around us in the Chicagoland area, on their main street, their vacancy rate is approximately 9.5%. Now, we've got some big buildings that are empty, that are in that 5%. Let's talk about the building where the Charter Fitness used to be. That's been vacant for a long time, but we have a brew pub going in there. Gentleman's going to make his own beer. We have a fitness center that's going in there at this point in time. Looking good. The old Bogarts, that was tied up for years in litigation. That's why it was empty. We have the gentleman and the man and wife who owns Isabella's. They're opening that restaurant sometime in the fall. The old Castos is opening with a Thai restaurant. A family owns two Thai restaurants, one in Calumet City and one in Maryville, Indiana. And they're going to be opening that particular restaurant. We've also worked hard with the Oak Park Avenue merchants in approaching their advertising with social media. We hired someone to work with our people. All they have to do, the Oak Park merchant, is to give the information to our consulting firm, and they will put it on the websites. They will do the necessary things to do that. This is our way of working with downtown Tinley, and it seems to have worked pretty well. Hopefully you've heard something called a legacy plan. Quite frankly, as I said on August 14th, I was not a great fan of the legacy plan, but I'm beginning to get more comfortable with it as I begin to understand and see the uses of it. It encourages mixed-use development. What's mixed-use development? Quite simply, commercial on the bottom, residential on top. What does Oak Park Avenue need more than anything else? People. If you don't have people, businesses will not succeed. We need people on Oak Park Avenue. So that's one way of doing it. Increase the number of people on Oak Park Avenue, they will patronize those businesses. That makes a difference. We want to concentrate those people near the train station. Transit-oriented development. TODs. You're going to hear a lot of that. Different communities, Palatine, Naperville, Arlington Heights, Wheaton. They have the concentration of condos and apartments next to those train stations as people go into the loop. That makes a difference. And that's what we're aggressively going after. But the legacy code, it allows the renovation of buildings, and I'll give some examples in a few minutes. It streamlines the process for the individual, for the developer. Gives him an opportunity looking at the legacy site, at the legacy plan, and saying, this is what I need to do. If I can do it, fine. If not, then I got to talk to somebody. On-site commercial requirements for parking, we've taken care of that. The village has bought land behind Ed and Joe's all the way down to the creek. We're in the process of getting that as each piece develops. So parking will not be an issue. The parking over around the train station after 11:30 in the morning, it's free parking. So again, those are the kinds of things that make a difference with Oak Park Avenue. The slide you're probably looking at now is South Street on the bottom right-hand corner. This is what's being proposed. And quite frankly, I hope it flies. But again, I'm a realist. With my years as being mayor, I don't believe a developer until his check goes through the bank and the money's deposited in the village account. Because too many times there's a lot of talkers out there that have big checks but no money in the checkbooks. Bailey's did an excellent job. Falls into the legacy plan. The animal hospital over just off 167 Oak Park Avenue. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. That has made a difference and how it fits into the legacy plan and the opportunities that veterinarian took, the opportunities that were there for him that are there for other people to use on Oak Park Avenue to make it a viable situation. Some people have a problem with the TIF, tax increment financing, but it works, and you have to work it carefully. TIF has developed a bad name in many communities because of the way the community used the TIF. Our TIFs, the money is put into the infrastructure, sewers, sidewalks, lights, street repair, and we do it in tandem with the school district so they know what we're doing. There's also something called Class 2, Class 3 through the county. If you put an apartment above your business in Bremen Township, Rich Township, and there's a couple of them, there's a 60% savings on your taxes. 60% savings on your taxes. So let's walk down Oak Park Avenue. Ed and Joe's, T-Hands, Bailey's, Subway, Isabella's. All of these places have apartments up above. They get a break on their taxes. That makes a difference. We encourage people to use that. And again, I'll come back to the new animal hospital because that's literally a poster child for this. There's also something called Class 8. Class 8 basically said that if a business in those townships that I mentioned are vacant for more than 2 years, there's a tax break for them. We've been successful in getting that down from 2 years to 12 months. And that was done primarily through Trustee Dave Seaman and Trustee Brian Maher. They worked with the county on it. Let's go back to the building with it's called the Springforth building across from the VFW. Okay? That falls into that category. That falls in that category. It's been vacant for 2 years. They have tenants for it. They're going to get a tax break, and that building's going to be filled. By the way, some people also ask what about the video store next to the Eggheads restaurant on Oak Park Avenue at about 170th? That's an old video store. There's some old oil tanks back there. And the gentleman who owns that particular building is very particular on what goes in there. He will not allow anything that has anything to do with alcohol to go in there. And we're encouraging him to redevelop that short piece in there, that video store piece, with putting some type of apartment up above and put some commercial down below. We think it'll work for him. We're working with him, trying to put together. Another thing that we've done through the years is the facade program, and this has been in existence for probably about 15 years. The village has spent about $1.3 million on it, and the local businesses have spent about $550,000 on it. Basically what it is that the village would help a business on Oak Park Avenue to improve its facade. If they put in roughly $60,000, we would help them out with between $30,000 and $35,000. Who took advantage of it? Bailey's, Subway, T-Hands, Citibank, Ed and Joe's, Isabella's. The old P&R Auto across from Bettenhausen Dodge, they took advantage of that. Again, we're working with the local business to try to put this together. Now, literally a case study, the Avenue Animal Hospital. You knew what that building looked like before. The veterinarian took advantage of every opportunity, and I applaud him for that. He did a great job. He converted an existing building to meet the legacy code. Building brought forward, new sidewalks in front, parking behind the building. He had an apartment up above. Remember I talked about, I believe it was Class 2? He constructed a new sidewalk, installed landscaping. He got facade funds. Remember we talked about facade funds? T-Hands, Ed and Joe's, some of these other places, Citibank. And he qualified for Class 2. Literally, that's the poster boy for using all of those different projects, different opportunities. What's coming on Oak Park Avenue? Well, there's been a dirge on Oak Park Avenue for probably the last 6 or 7 months, and things are beginning to come together. If we walk down Oak Park Avenue, and I'm going to start with a senior citizen project that many people are waiting for, and that's Golden Corral. We're very happy to get that in. We're finding out that as one of the favorite places of senior citizens. That should be open sometime late fall, early winter. El Coco Mio, that should be opening sometime this fall. The Star of Siam, which is the Thai restaurant I talked about, that'll be opening sometime this fall. The Fitness Center in the Springforth building. The Brewing Company in the Springforth building. He already has 4 120-gallon tanks ready to go. Midwest Bank is going to be doing some upgrading of their building. The old Tinley Glass building is going to be remodeled. We have a business going in there. I mentioned Golden Corral. Also, the Always Open store on 183rd and Oak Park Avenue. You know what that building looked like. Mac Industries, who has a very fine history, has taken over that corner, and they're doing a 3-phase program. A 3-phase program. First one is underway right now, and that is to clean up the entire corner, clean up those buildings, and rent them. Number 2, he has that lot just to the north of that building. He's going to build a building which is a transit-oriented development, mixed use, commercial down below, residential up above. The 3rd phase is to take down what is left there and make it all match. Again, those opportunities are there. It will take time, but it'll eventually work. We're also talking about Oak Park Avenue and doing some rework with the building itself, with the street itself. From South Street to 183rd Street, we're going to totally repave the street. There'll be sidewalks. There'll be bike lanes along Oak Park Avenue. It'll also go from Oak Park Avenue to the Convention Center with sidewalks. Again, trying to tie all this together. I think more often than not, one of the most frustrating things we have is that sometimes there are rumors that go around and people really are not sure what is happening, and sometimes it generates itself. By all means, call myself, call one of the trustees. I'll be more than happy to sit down with you over a cup of coffee or over a phone or even a beer. And let's talk about what's going on Oak Park Avenue. Or, hey, I heard this. What about this? We may end up agreeing to disagree. But we want to make sure that you know what is going on. That's what is important. I thank you for the opportunity of spending a few minutes with you. I probably went longer than what I should have, but I'm talking about my favorite topic, Tinley Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching this special message from Mayor Zabrocki. For more information about what you heard, or for any other questions about Tinley Park, please call the village office at 708-444-5000 or visit our website at www.tinleypark.org.